So this video is just some general tips for solving trig problems. So you want to make sure you're thinking intelligently. You don't want to be doing more work than is necessary to solve the problem at hand. So the first thing I want to point out is that if you're working with a right triangle and you know the value of any two of your sides and you need to know the value of your third side, you don't even need to use any of the trig ratios or trig functions. You don't even have to think about that. The easiest way to solve for the third side of a right triangle is to simply use the Pythagorean theorem, which, once you learn so much about trig functions, is really easy to forget even exists. So, anytime you're looking at a right triangle, you know two sides, and you're looking for the third side, make sure you use the Pythagorean theorem and make your life easy. Now, in the event that you're working with any other right triangle, my advice is to simply use one of your trig ratios. So by this, I mean sine of theta equals opposite over hypotenuse, cosine of theta equals adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent of theta equals opposite over adjacent. So, it's a matter of knowing what information you're given and what information you need to find as to which of these trig functions you're going to need to use to solve your problem. So, if you're not sure, I always recommend drawing a diagram and kind of writing out these ratios. If you are having trouble remember them, just think SOHCAHTOA, and if you just write SOHCAHTOA at the top of your paper, it's really easy to reference and determine which information you have and which function is going to be the most useful in helping you find the information that you're looking for. For example, if you're given this angle and the opposite side and you want to find the hypotenuse, then you're going to want to use something like sine of theta, where you can plug in your theta, plug in your opposite side, and solve for your hypotenuse. So depending on the information you're given, you're going to use a different one of these trig functions. So I recommend, like I said, just writing out the information that you have, maybe labeling it, so whatever angle you're calling theta, and then say, okay, so this would be my opposite side, this would be my adjacent side, this would be my hypotenuse, just to keep everything straight, and then you can see which information you have to plug in and what you still need to find. Now, for other just generic triangles that are not right triangles, this one looks kind of like a right triangle, I'm going to redraw it. Depending on which information you're given, you will use either the law of sines or the law of cosines to find your missing information. So once again, which one of these laws you use will be determined on which information is given. So, in the event that you are given the value of all three sides, you will use the law of cosines. If you are given the value of two sides and then the angle in between them, you will use the law of cosines as well. So the law of sines will be helpful if you have two consecutive angles and a non-included side, if you have two angles and the side in between them, as in an ASA triangle, and then if you have two consecutive sides and then an angle not included, that would also be a case in which you would use the law of sines. Now once again, if you're not entirely sure which of these laws to use, just draw a diagram and label the information you have, determine which of these patterns the information you're given fits, and then you can determine which of these laws to use. So it's about thinking smart and not doing more work than is necessary. Now, one last thing I want to mention is to remember that if you're using the law of sines, there is the ambiguous case. So that, remember, comes from our unit circle, because for any given angle, the sine of that angle is also the same as the sine for another angle in quadrant 2. So when you plug this into your calculator will always give you the quadrant 1 angle. So this would be another case in which it'd be a really good idea to draw a diagram to model the scenario in which you're trying to solve for your missing angle, and then determine if that angle is going to be an obtuse angle, in which case it's going to be a second quadra angle, or if it's an acute angle, in which case your inverse sign here in your calculator is going to give you the right measure. Now, if the angle you're looking for is obtuse, remember, it has the same reference angle as the angle your calculator gives you, so in order to determine this angle, you simply subtract whatever your calculator gave you from 180. So minus whatever the calculator gave you will determine your actual angle, if it is an obtuse angle. So I just want to mention one last time that this really is about smart thinking to work as efficiently as possible and make sure that you're getting the right answers without any confusion. So, like I said, my best advice is to draw a picture of whatever you're working with, determine what information you know, label the information you know, and determine what the best way to solve for the information you're looking for is, so you're not doing a bunch of work that is unnecessary.